guys, welcome back to Art with Miss Naomi. I'm happy you can make it back. I hope you got through the first lesson of the elements of art through Canvas. Now we're going to do something different today. We're actually going to get to draw and color 3D buildings, which is actually pretty cool. So you will need the printout of the 3D building printout on Canvas, and then you will also print out the graph paper, which I've attached to this lesson. Now, here are some of the materials that you will need to make this lesson successful. If you don't have all the materials, it's okay. But the first thing you'll need a pencil, some crayons, color pencils, a Sharpie, and a pen. If you do not have all these materials, like I said, it's okay. I'm going to do this in Sharpie because I want you guys to see it. If I do it in pencil, it won't show up. So by doing it with a Sharpie, I will need an extra sheet of paper underneath because this paper is thin. This one's a little bit thicker, so it will, if the Sharpie bleeds through the paper, it won't ruin my table, which I will not be happy if that happens. So here we go. So the first thing we're going to do, and here's a little drawing right here. We're going to do like a little skyline with the sun, the clouds, a tree, and a couple buildings, and we have the foreground, the midground, and the background, which we talked about in our elements of art. We talked about space, and space shows you foreground, midground, and background. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is I want to look at my paper and see where I want to draw my buildings, kind of sketch it out in my head. I don't want to do my building this small, my ground like this, tiny, and I have little buildings. I mean, you can, but look how much paper you're wasting at the same time. So it's very important because you want to use the whole paper. Look, I started drawing here, and look how much paper I've used. I've used the majority of the paper, and it's not teeny tiny. Look at the difference. I'm going to put them side by side. Alright, so I have my graph paper here, and now we are going to create our buildings. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a vertical line. We have this graph paper, and the graph paper actually is measured out. You can see they're small little squares, and it actually helps you measure where you want certain things at, and it gives you a straight line. So this is actually going to help you. It's kind of like a ruler type thing, but in the paper. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a horizon line or a foreground line, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 up from the bottom, and I'm going to do a horizontal line. Now to create my buildings, first thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to make rectangles, and the rectangles are going to be 2-dimensional. So I'm going to start from this corner here, and I'm going to start with a tall building, and then I'm going to make it a rectangle. There we go. Bring this down, and I made my first front view of my building. So this actually is my first building, and then I'm going to continue making my rectangles to make my drawing. The next thing I'm going to come right here, I'm going to make a horizontal line, then which goes from one point to another. Remember yesterday we talked about lines, which is a dot that likes to take a walk, and you're like, how is it a dot that likes to take a walk? Well, first thing you're going to do is you're going to create a dot, and then you're going to bring it down, and look, my line is walking from one point to another. So I have attached my next line, and I don't have to redraw the outside of this side of my building because it's already created by this taller building. Now I'm going to create, I'm going to go a little bit higher, make a vertical line, and a horizontal line, making a wider building, and vertical line. Alright, so now I have 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to make a little tiny one. Alright, I'm Miss Naomi's going to make another one, which is going to be, oh no, I stayed off the line, I made a mistake. It's okay, mistakes are okay. It happens. I'll make this one, the skinny one. So I have a skinny building. Alright, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buildings. Now, you're saying, Miss Naomi, how am I going to make this a 3D building? Well, watch. We're going to make now, we're going to add some diagonal lines to our building to make this three-dimensional. Now, we're going to first start off with each building getting a diagonal line. I'm just going a little bit, not much, just a little diagonal line at each corner. Now obviously I can't do a diagonal line there because it's going to go into that corner. So I'm going to continue my diagonal lines up there. Same thing here. Make a diagonal line here because the way my buildings are facing, they're facing this direction. Alright, so if I was facing the other direction, my diagonal lines would go the other way, but I want my buildings to face to the left. And here we go, I'm going to make one up here. I'll make this a little bit bigger here. Now, okay, so now I have two-dimensional buildings with a bunch of diagonal lines. So we have to make them three-dimensional. Watch. So now we're going to connect those lines with horizontal lines and vertical lines. And horizontal lines. And I'm going to connect this one here. And this one's a vertical line here. Hold my paper down here so it doesn't move away. Look, now my two-dimensional boxes went three-dimensional. Three-dimensional. So now we're going to continue working on our buildings, and now we're going to add some details. We're going to add some doors and lots of windows because these are buildings and or apartments. So it's up to you where you want to draw. I'm going to go ahead and start here and create my building. Now my windows can be any direction they want. So I'm going to start creating them and I will be right back. Time to add some more details. We can add a sky, we can add some trees if we want. Now I made it very narrow. So as you can see, I'm going to add a horizon line now to another horizon line, and this is going to be my mid-ground here, and it's going to go like this. Watch. You're going to, let's see, so we have here our main ground, and I'm going to bring it up just a little bit right here. So it shows that my buildings are sitting on the grass. Now in my grass, I'm going to make some trees. Now you can go back with your Sharpie and create the lines and trace out the lines. Take your time, don't rush. You want good craftsmanship. Did you hear me? Good craftsmanship. You want to make sure that your craftsmanship is good so that when somebody looks at it, they're like, wow, look at that. You didn't rush, you took your time. So now I'm going to go in and I am going to color this either with crayons, with a couple of my pencils. My pencils are everywhere. Or if you want to, you can actually use markers. Now, I would prefer that you use crayons and color pencils because we want to emphasize, that's one of the elements of art, or sorry, not one of the elements, one of the principles of design. You want to emphasize certain buildings. So like right here, I'm going to color the front of my building a certain color, and then the top and the edges of my building are going to be a little bit darker. So, move my pencils to the side here. I'm going to get some crayons. crayons. Look at that. Bam! Alright, my first building, let's see. I'm going to go with, I think this is kind of like a bluish green, kind of like a teal. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to start coloring in my craftsmanship here. Make sure I have good craftsmanship. I color within the lines. You don't want to color outside the lines. You want to make sure you stay within the lines. And go up and down. Pick a direction you want to go. You don't want to start this way and then this way and then this way and then next thing you know, it's going everywhere. So you want to make sure you pick one direction you want to color. If I were to grab another sheet of paper, and this is what I'm talking about. A lot of you do this. You'll start coloring and then you go like this. That's not good craftsmanship. You want to make sure you stay within the line. Make sure you take your time. Like I showed you, I can go up and down if I want to and pick that direction I go. But if I start taking my time and then I switch it up, you can't really tell which direction I'm going, even though I started going up and down. So you gotta make sure you have good craftsmanship. So I'm gonna continue coloring this, and I will see you in a second. So I finished coloring the front of my building, and I went really light on my crayon. I didn't push really hard on it. I just went lightly and took my time with it. You see how I stayed inside the line? And if you go outside the line just a little bit, it's okay. You don't want to like rush, like I said. Now, I'm going to add details to my building, and I'm going to press a little bit harder to make shade on top of my building. So here we go. So you can see the difference and give that 3D illusion. Look how hard I'm pushing. And the same thing with my craftsmanship. Same thing here. You want to make sure you take your time and have good craftsmanship. Now, you can see the difference between the side of the building and the roof of the building and the front of the building. And I have colored, like I said, the top and the side, so that showed the 3D effect and the space that I have. Alrighty, so here's my building. Now, I'm going to continue coloring this. When you color this, make sure, like I said, take your time, pick good craftsmanship. Remember the front faces of the building that were originally our rectangles are going to be lighter, and then you want to emphasize your color on the top and sides of the building. You don't have to color your windows, it is up to you, but make sure you color the buildings, make sure you color the sides of it darker, and make sure you actually color your sky. Now, as you can see, I went in there and I have colored everything. I did add some details on it that I forgot to expand because I wanted my whole paper to be used. I wanted to make sure that I got all the details that I wanted on here and was able to put the things that I wanted to color and not color, because I originally had these two colors, doors white, and I'm like, I want one white and one brown. So I have gone in and I have I colored one in and left one white. I added yellow to these windows just to add a different color. As you could see, it's very colorful. Remember, that's one of the elements of art. Color, baby, color. So we have used shape in these elements. We have used shape, we have used color, we have used space. We've also used form and value. It's funny how we used a lot of the elements of art. So space is right here because we have foreground, midground, background. We have used shapes. We use rectangles and squares to create our shapes, circles. We have used form, which we made it three-dimensional. We have used color. We even have used line. As you can see, we use lines to create our buildings. What else? Color, shape. We're going through all. Even value. Yes, value. We started. We did lightness and we use darkness. So we have used all the elements of art here. That's pretty cool in this drawing. So I want you to take your time. Make sure that you use your whole piece of paper. You want to make sure that you don't have a tiny drawing. Like I said, you want to use the whole sheet of paper, and don't make something teeny tiny like this. Express yourself. Thank you for coming back for another lesson here in Art with Miss Naomi. Where's my sign there?